Come here, Arnold. Now, what's this sudden aversion to girls?
You call my whole life sudden?
Don't worry, Arnold. In a few years, you'll think of women as being necessities.
If that's true, my future looks bleak.
They were the faces of primetime. The reason you rushed home from school and the stars who made being famous look effortless. But when the camera stopped rolling, some of our most beloved 80s icons found themselves making headlines for all the wrong reasons. One shocking fall from grace literally redefined how we think about celebrity trust. Another involves a beloved TV dad whose real-life crimes were the complete opposite of his wholesome image. Get ready for some serious cognitive dissonance as we count down the biggest 80s stars who traded their halos for handcuffs.
So I snorted for a couple weeks. Pretty soon there's no more high in snorting it. So you gotta find another level, which is freebase. You start freebasing it, that high is instantaneously high. You're high. You're up there.
Number 10, Todd Bridges. Coming in at number 10, we've got Todd Bridges, who went from asking, "What you talking about, Willis?" to asking, "Do I need a lawyer?" Todd played Willis Jackson on Diff'rent Strokes, the older brother who was supposed to keep everyone grounded while Gary Coleman got all the laughs and catchphrases. Remember how Willis was always the responsible one? The voice of reason in the Drummond household? Well, real life had other plans. Todd's troubles started brewing while the show was still on the air, as the pressures of child stardom began taking their toll behind the scenes. By the late 80s and early 90s, Todd was making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Drug possession arrests, assault charges, and a downward spiral that seemed to give credence to the tragic curse hanging over the Diff'rent Strokes cast. The kid who had grown up on television was sinking down in real life, struggling with substance abuse and legal troubles that made his TV family's problems look like sitcom fluff. But here's where Todd's story gets interesting. Unlike some of the names coming up on this list, he actually turned things around just in time. Todd got clean, got his life together, and became an advocate for recovery and mental health awareness. Sometimes the best redemption stories come from the darkest places, and Todd's journey from troubled child star to recovery advocate proves that even the most famous falls can have happy endings. Number 9, Eddie Murphy. At number 9, we've got Eddie Murphy, and yes, we're going there. Eddie was the comedy king of the 80s, the guy who made Beverly Hills Cop the highest grossing comedy of the decade, and turned Saturday Night Live into must-see television every Saturday night. Eddie's cast of characters were larger than life. Axel Foley, Mr. Robinson's Neighborhood, and enough memorable SNL impressions to fill a highlight reel. He was Hollywood's golden boy, the comedian who could do no wrong and had that magical combination of street smarts and mainstream appeal. Then came 1997, and suddenly America's Funniest Man was making headlines for something that wasn't particularly hilarious. Eddie was pulled over on Santa Monica Boulevard at 4:55 in the morning with a transgender sex worker in his car. Now, let's be clear. What Eddie was allegedly doing wasn't technically illegal, but it was the late 90s, and the situation was tabloid gold that dominated entertainment news for months. Eddie claimed he was just being a good Samaritan giving someone a ride. The tabloids and regular people had other theories. No matter what the truth was, the incident became a permanent fixture in Eddie's Wikipedia page and late-night comedy monologues. For a guy whose career was built on making people laugh, suddenly he was the punchline. The good news is the scandal didn't end his career. Eddie's too talented for that. But it definitely changed how people saw him. The wholesome family comedian image took a serious and permanent hit.
You always mean lots more to me than you could ever guess, for you have done so much to fill my life with happiness.
Number 8, Mark Harmon. Mark was the ultimate 80s heartthrob. The handsome doctor on St. Elsewhere, the charming teacher in summer school, and the kind of guy who looked like he stepped out of a cologne commercial. Mark had that all-American appeal that made him perfect for wholesome roles. He was the guy your mom wanted you to marry and your dad wanted to grab a beer with. Clean-cut, reliable, and seemingly incapable of doing anything remotely scandalous. But in 1987, Mark made headlines when he showed up at his sister Christian's house with a shotgun to confront her abusive husband. Now, before you think he went crazy in full Rambo, this was actually a planned intervention. Mark was trying to help his sister escape a dangerous domestic situation. The problem was, holding someone at gunpoint, even with good intentions, will get you in trouble with the law. The incident created a media firestorm and shattered his squeaky clean image overnight. The irony was delicious. Dr. Bobby Caldwell, the calm, rational physician from St. Elsewhere, was suddenly involved in a real-life drama that sounded like it belonged in a primetime soap opera. Luckily, Mark's career survived, obviously. He went on to become Gibbs on NCIS.
Whoa. This better be your sister.
Maybe I need to rethink this.
Number 7, Richard Pryor. Lucky number 7 takes us to Richard Pryor, the absolute comedy genius who proved that sometimes the line between hilarious and horrifying is thinner than you think. Richard wasn't just a comedian, he was a cultural force. Richard's comedy was raw, honest, and unlike anything else on television. He talked about race, relationships, and real life with a fearlessness that influenced every comedian who came after him. But Richard's honesty extended beyond his act. He was equally open about his struggles with drugs, alcohol, and the demons that fueled both his comedy and his chaos. The arrests started piling up throughout the 80s. Drug possession, domestic disputes, and enough legal troubles to fill a courthouse filing cabinet. But the incident that shocked everyone happened in June 1980, when Richard literally set himself on fire while freebasing cocaine. That's not a metaphor. The man actually caught fire and ran down the street in flames. Most celebrities try to hide their rock bottom moments. Richard turned his into comedy gold, talking openly about the incident in his stand-up routines with a combination of humor and heartbreak that only he could pull off. "I was running down the street and people were saying, 'Hey Richard, what's up?' I said, 'I'm on fire!'" Richard's legal troubles and personal struggles never really ended, but he transformed them into art in a way that was both tragic and transcendent. Sometimes the most troubled souls create the most honest comedy. Number 6, Robert Downey Jr. At number 6, we have Robert Downey Jr., and this is the ultimate cautionary tale with the ultimate happy ending. In the 80s, Robert was Hollywood's golden child, the talented son of underground filmmaker Robert Downey Sr., blessed with natural charisma and acting chops that made him seem destined for superstardom. Robert's early roles showed incredible range and promise. He was funny, dramatic, and had that rare quality that made him magnetic on screen. Industry insiders were predicting major things for this kid. Oscar nominations, leading man status, the whole Hollywood dream package. But by the 90s, Robert had become the poster child for Hollywood success and self-destruction. The arrest started in 1996 and just kept coming. Drug possession, trespassing, parole violations, and a series of incidents that made his name synonymous with talented actors throwing their careers away. The low point came when Robert was arrested for wandering into a neighbor's house and falling asleep in their child's bedroom while under the influence. Robert spent almost a year in state prison and seemed destined to become another Hollywood tragedy. His career was essentially over, his reputation was destroyed, and most people had written him off completely. Then something magical happened. Iron Man. Robert's casting as Tony Stark in 2008 was considered a huge risk at the time, but it became the ultimate comeback story. The guy who had been Hollywood's most famous cautionary tale became its biggest success story. Speaking of comebacks and crashes, if you're enjoying this trip through 80s scandal memory lane, hit that subscribe button before we reveal which beloved sitcom actor had the most shocking fall from grace.
You have been described by some as a Da Vinci for our time. What do you have to say about that?
Da Vinci, ridiculous. I don't paint.
Oh, and what do you have to say about the fact that Stark Weapons is responsible for millions of deaths since World War II?
Oh boy, let me guess. Berkeley? Ms.
Summer, and it's brown.
Number 5, Heather Locklear. Coming in at number 5, we have Heather Locklear, the blonde bombshell who defined 80s glamour and made big hair look like high art. Heather was everywhere in the 80s, playing Sammy Jo on Dynasty, Officer Stacey Sheridan on TJ Hooker, and Commercial Queen. Heather had that perfect combination of beauty and attitude that made her both aspirational and approachable. She was the kind of star who could pull off dramatic soap opera storylines one night and action comedy partnerships with William Shatner the next. For a generation of viewers, Heather Locklear was the woman they wanted to become. Fast forward to the 2000s and 2010s, and Heather's headlines took a dramatic turn. Multiple DUI arrests, domestic violence incidents, and extensive legal troubles. The woman who had once embodied Hollywood glamour was suddenly appearing in mugshots that sadly showed the toll of addiction and personal struggles. In 2018, Heather was again arrested for domestic violence and battery on a police officer, charges that would have been unthinkable for the actress who once played America's sweetheart cop. The incident involved paramedics, deputies, and enough drama to last a television season. The saddest part isn't the arrests themselves. It's watching someone who brought so much joy and glamour to television struggle so publicly with demons that the cameras couldn't fix. It's a reminder that sometimes the most beautiful facade can hide the deepest pain.
I was willing to become a complete phony just for some sexy girl.
And that's why we like you.
Is there anything you like about me?
Yes. Your brother.
Number 4, Gary Coleman. Number 4 brings us back to the Diff'rent Strokes curse with Gary Coleman, the pint-sized powerhouse who gave us television's most iconic catchphrase and one of Hollywood's most heartbreaking falls from grace. Gary wasn't just a child star, he was the child star of the early 80s. What You Talk About, Willis became part of the American lexicon, and Gary's comedic timing was so perfect that seasoned actors were taking notes. At just 10 years old, he was making more money than most adults and seemed to have the world at his feet. But behind the laughter was a kid dealing with serious health issues from a kidney condition, Financial mismanagement, family issues, and the pressure of supporting an entire television production. The legal troubles started in the 90s and never really stopped. At first, Gary was arrested for assault in 1998 after punching a woman who asked for his autograph. Then there were domestic disputes, disorderly conduct charges, and a series of incidents that painted the former America's sweetheart as angry, troubled, and struggling with demons that success couldn't fix. The final chapter came in 2010 when Gary died at 42 following a brain hemorrhage. Even his death was mired in controversy, with questions about his wife's role and circumstances that added more tragedy to an already heartbreaking story. Gary's legal troubles were really symptoms of deeper issues: childhood exploitation, health struggles, and a system that failed to protect the kid who had made everyone else rich. Sometimes the funniest people are fighting the hardest battles.
Hi!
Who are you?
I'm your nephew.
Who have we here? Aren't you a sweet little pumpkin face?
I'm Louise. You're even more beautiful than your pictures. Sir, I'm turning you into toothpicks with my Zowie Zap gun. Zap, zap, zap!
Number 3, Winona Ryder. At number 3, we have Winona Ryder. And this scandal was so shocking because it involved America's alternative sweetheart doing something completely out of character. Winona was the queen of 80s indie cool, the dark-haired, mysterious actress who made being different look effortlessly chic. In her roles, Winona embodied a specific type of intelligent, rebellious teenager that felt authentic in a decade full of manufactured pop stars. She was the girl who read Sylvia Plath, listened to The Cure, and made black eyeliner high fashion. For countless fans, Winona represented a more thoughtful, artistic alternative to mainstream Hollywood. Then came December 12, 2001, and suddenly America's indie darling was facing felony charges for shoplifting. Winona was caught at Saks Fifth Avenue in Beverly Hills with over $5,000 worth of designer merchandise that she had allegedly stolen. The details were almost too bizarre to believe. Security cameras caught her cutting sensor tags off clothing, switching price tags, and stuffing items into bags in a way that suggested this wasn't her first rodeo. The actress who had made millions of dollars was apparently stealing clothes for the thrill of it. The trial became a media circus, with Winona showing up to court looking like she was attending a film premiere rather than facing criminal charges. She was ultimately convicted and sentenced to probation, community service, and restitution, plus the kind of public humiliation that money can't fix. Winona's career eventually recovered thanks largely to her role in Stranger Things. Sometimes the best comeback strategy is just waiting long enough for people to remember why they loved you in the first place.
I don't know. I read it and I thought it was great that that was being addressed and that was being commented on in the film, because usually it's not even brought up.
Number 2, Wesley Snipes. Number 2 brings us Wesley Snipes, the martial arts master who broke out in the late 80s and became one of the 90s biggest action stars. Wesley had that rare combination of athletic ability, acting chops, and screen presence that made him perfect for the action hero roles that defined a generation of moviegoers. His early work showed incredible promise. From the baseball comedy Major League to more serious dramatic roles, he proved he could handle everything from comedy to action to drama. By the 90s, he seemed unstoppable. But Wesley made a crucial mistake that would haunt him for years. He decided to fight the IRS. And let me tell you, the IRS doesn't care how famous you are. They always win in the end. Wesley was charged with conspiracy to defraud the United States and failure to file income tax returns from 1999 to 2004. We're talking about $7 million in taxes that he allegedly decided were more like suggestions than legal obligations. Wesley's defense was that he believed he wasn't legally required to pay taxes, a strategy that works about as well as you'd expect in federal court. In 2008, Wesley was sentenced to 3 years in federal prison, becoming one of the highest profile celebrities to actually serve significant time for tax evasion. Wesley served his time, got out in 2013, and slowly rebuilt his career.
Oh, it hurts! Oh, it hurts! It hurts so bad! Oh, hey, baby, let me tell you something. I don't mean to brag, but I'm the greatest! I am the greatest!
Number 1, Bill Cosby. And here we are at number 1 with what might be the most devastating fall from grace in television history: Bill Cosby. This one wasn't just about legal troubles. This is about the complete destruction of a cultural icon who defined family entertainment for an entire generation. Throughout the 80s, Bill Cosby wasn't just a comedian or actor. He was America's dad. The Cosby Show was a cultural institution that redefined how black families were portrayed on screen while creating storylines that resonated with families of every background. Thursday nights at 8 p.m. were sacred in households across America. Dr. Heathcliff Huxtable was everything parents wanted to be: funny, wise, patient, and capable of turning every family crisis into a teachable moment. Bill's off-screen persona matched his on-screen character. He was the celebrity parents trusted, the comedian who could make adults laugh without making children leave the room. For decades, Bill Cosby represented wholesome family entertainment. He sold Jell-O pudding pops, gave commemorance speeches about personal responsibility, and seemed to embody the moral authority of America's favorite television father. Then came the accusations. Starting in 2005, women began coming forward with allegations of sexual assault, drugging, and predatory behavior spanning decades. The initial accusations were largely ignored or dismissed, but by 2014, the trickle became a flood. Over 60 women eventually accused Bill of assault, with many describing a similar pattern, being drugged and assaulted by the man they had trusted as America's father figure. The allegations weren't just about criminal behavior, they were about the complete betrayal of the trust and moral authority that Bill had cultivated throughout his career. In 2018, Bill was convicted on 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault and sentenced to 3 to 10 years in state prison. The conviction was later overturned on a technicality, but the damage to his legacy was permanent and complete. The Bill Cosby scandal was about the shattering of an entire generation's trust in their childhood heroes. Parents who had raised their children on Cosby Show reruns suddenly had to explain why Dad Huxtable was in handcuffs. The show that had once represented the best of family television became unwatchable for millions of viewers. This is what makes Bill Cosby's story the most shocking on our list. It's not just that he committed crimes, it's that those crimes were the complete opposite of everything he had spent decades representing. The man who had preached family values and moral responsibility was allegedly using his fame and trusted persona to prey on vulnerable women.
Jell-O pudding pops! Jell-O pudding pops! Frozen pudding on a stick! You know, Jell-O pudding pops is a winner with all the soapbox racers I know.
It is?
Mm-hmm. And even your mechanic's getting all revved up about it because it's so rich and creamy.
Yeah!
And it always gets the green light from Mom because it's made with real pudding.
And there you have it. 10 beloved faces from the 80s who traded their primetime glory for legal infamy. What strikes you most about these stories isn't just the shock value, but how they remind us that the people we invite into our living rooms every week are still strangers behind the camera. Which of these scandals shocked you the most? And should we do a follow-up on 80s stars who managed to turn their legal troubles into comeback stories? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more trips back to when television was supposedly innocent and our heroes were definitely more complicated than they seemed.